Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, a tragic accident kills two seniors in Seattle, and the Seattle Times is trying to start a boycott of local businesses. But before we got to any of that, time for some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
A crowd is growing outside the federal building in Seattle. Why? Because that's where ICE stages out of. And what's happening is it looks like this went from being the D-list Antifa types, the types of Antifa people you get when you order them on Wish.com, discount Antifa, to now attracting anybody who's not down in Los Angeles. Don't forget, a lot of the activists from our area, from Portland, went down to Los Angeles because they said that's where the party is, but perhaps the party is over. What happened last night was that all of a sudden, at around 10 o'clock local time, hundreds of police cars came streaming in from different municipalities to Los Angeles. Do you know why that is? Because the Democrats, for 4 days, have been viewed by the American public as completely incompetent. If the President of the United States has to federalize the National Guard to get them to protect federal buildings because local officials can't do it, then you look pretty bad. Let's remember, getting rid of illegal immigrant criminals is an 80-20 issue. And for 4 days, Democrats have been backing the illegal immigrant criminals, the rapists, the murderers, the child molesters, the people who commit domestic violence. That's a terrible, terrible look, and their poll ratings are going down, 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 down. So last night, the Democrats finally said, all right, we got to do something about this. We got to show we don't need Donald Trump. Because up until then, they were saying Donald Trump's causing the violence. Donald Trump's instigating all this, not those Antifa types. But by bringing in law enforcement, Donald Trump is creating the violence. Nobody was buying that. Nobody at all. But that's the narrative they were going with. Here's Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass.
But the real solution of all of this is for the administration to stop the raids. We have heard that these raids might take place for the next 30 days. We don't know how many are going to take place in a given day. And you just think about the disruption to families and the disruption to our local economy.
Stop. When you have murder victims like Laken Riley, nobody cares about the disruption to the illegal immigrant criminals' families. Nobody cares at all. So they're continuing to try and blame Donald Trump, to blame ICE, to blame everybody except for the rioters, who once again in Los Angeles right now have taken over an overpass and are throwing things at police officers down on a freeway. Donald Trump made his intentions very, very clear today when speaking in the Oval Office.
You have to remember, I've been here before, and I went right by every rule, and I waited for governors to say, send in the National Guard. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. And they just wouldn't do it. It kept going on and on, got worse and worse. And in Minneapolis, that city was burning down 7 days. And I said, I don't care. The governor, who's a governor that just happened to be running for vice president, a total, you talk about an incompetent governor. He's an incompetent person. That he was picked. Well, I was actually very happy he was picked for other reasons. But this guy wouldn't call the National Guard. And we ultimately just sent in the National Guard. We stopped it. But that was after 7 days. And I said to myself, if that stuff happens again, we've got to make faster decisions because they don't want to do it. The radical left, it's usually radical left, and it's usually governors that are Democrat, and they don't want to call them in. They don't want to save lives. They don't want to save property. They don't want to call them in. I don't know what it is. We sent them in, not early, we sent them in late as far as I'm concerned. But big problems, as you know, 3 nights ago, big problems were ensuing. If we didn't send in the National Guard quickly, right now, Los Angeles would be burning to the ground.
He's 100% right. What do we keep hearing out of the left? It's not as bad as the 92 riots. Oh, so we should wait for it to get that bad? We should wait for it to get as bad as the 2020 riots? No, of course not. So the left realized this narrative wasn't working at all. So what do? they decide they have an entirely new approach. They're going to swing their narrative.
Here we go. Pivot. 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 Shut up. Shut up. Shut up.
So what's their new narrative? Donald Trump's going to put us in jail. That's their new narrative. They're going to put us in jail. Donald Trump is trying to come after us because they think to themselves, well, when we tried to prosecute Donald Trump, his poll ratings went up. This is how we're going to fix everything. We're going to claim that Donald Trump is trying to weaponize government and put us in jail. And the most obvious version of this is our very own Seattle police chief, Sean Barnes. According to the Seattle Times, in response to a question about federal actions in Los Angeles, Seattle Police Chief Sean Barnes said Tuesday he expects to be jailed by the federal government at some point during his tenure atop the Seattle Police Department as a repercussion for standing up for everyone residing in the city. You know what this is like? Somebody goes to Donald Trump. Sir, we have the Seattle Police Chief says you're going to put him in jail. What do you have to say about that, sir? And Donald Trump pulls a Thanos. I don't even know who you are. That's, come on, the Seattle Police Chief? First of all, Sean, Booby. Question, right now, you have a whole bunch of Antifa activists massing outside the federal building in your city. SPD looks like it was given a stand-down order. It looks like they were told to retreat from this D-list Antifa types. So are you really protecting everybody in your city? Because it doesn't seem like you are. You want to hear what these psychopaths are up to? This is from the police department scanner account.
Be advised, we have black blocs that were trying to destroy our property, breaking bricks off of our building to use this weapon.
You have black bloc Antifa types breaking bricks off buildings. Are we going to have another Summer of Love? Are we going to have another street festival? Is that what it is, Mayor Jenny Durkin? All we need is Bruce Harrell to come out and say something dumb like that, and he will. He will. Actually, where's he been right now? He's kind of in hiding. Hasn't he been in hiding since he made all those dumb comments about the Christian rock concert? So now you literally have Antifa massing at the federal building. We don't know if they're actually going to attack, but you know what they've done? This is the saddest thing. So they've built barricades blocking the doors to ICE. You know what they've done? They took lime bikes and lime scooters and piled them up over there. And there's just one next to another, next to another, next to another. These are the worst barricades. But what they are doing is telling their friends to come. You remember what happened with the Gaza encampment at University of Washington? Hey, I got to eat a little crow on this one. I went out the day after it formed. I was out there in the morning. I walk around, and I said, this is the saddest-looking Gaza encampment I've ever seen. Because what was it? Maybe 4 tents? Maybe 6 people in 4 tents? And you had the full-on riots at Columbia going on in UCLA and all these other places, and I look around, and I just said, this is sad. This is really pathetic. It's sad. It's the worst. So I remember I go home and I posted something like, this is sad and pathetic. That night is when everybody else came in from outside. It's when everybody else came on campus, and they made what we now know is the Gaza encampment at University of Washington that might end up costing the University of Washington federal funding. They went against Jews. They went against Jewish faculty. They prevented them from walking on campus. There was violence. It was crazy. They vandalized the campus. Then the fact that UW did nothing about it led to what happened afterwards, where you had Super UW, this activist group, which seems to be a real terrorist organization. You'll hear more about that with a guest at 4:30 who attended one of their terrorist training seminars. So they vandalized the hub, the Husky Union building, $50,000 in damage. Then they're still allowed on campus. What happens then? They come back just a month ago and cause over $1 million in campus, and people seem to be surprised. We still don't have charges out for those guys. So, of course, these lunatics in Seattle are emboldened by all this. And when are Seattle officials actually going to do anything? What's your line? Is it when they take control of a police station? Is it when they take control of 6 city blocks? Or perhaps maybe you want to stop it before then. Pete Hegseth was testifying on Capitol Hill today, and he was saying the exact same thing President Trump was saying, which is he was destroying Representative Betty McCollum, who's from Minnesota, who was questioning him about why bring out the National Guard in Los Angeles. And he said, you want to get to the point where your police station is burned down like in your failed state?
Congresswoman, thank you for the question. You are right. We are both originally from Minnesota, which is why I recall 2020 quite well, when Governor Walz abandoned a police precinct and allowed it to be burned to the ground, and also allowed 5 days of chaos to occur inside the streets of Minneapolis. The police precinct, ma'am, was abandoned and burned to the ground. And because of that, the National Guard was eventually far too late mobilized. And President Trump recognizes a situation like that, improperly handled by a governor, like it was by Governor Walz, if it gets out of control, is a bad situation for the citizens of any location. So in Los Angeles, we believe that ICE, which is a federal law enforcement agency, has the right to safely conduct operations in any state and any jurisdiction in the country, especially after 21 million illegals have crossed our border under the previous administration. ICE ought to be able to do its job, whether it's Minneapolis or Los Angeles.
I have limited time. I asked a budget
and they
question.
Are being...
Could the Secretary please address the budget? Thank you.
That isn't the question you asked, by the way. The question you asked was why we should be spending money on the National Guard in Los Angeles. That's not a budget question. All of a sudden, Democrats now care about the budget. Okay, vote for the big, beautiful bill if you're so worried about budget issues. If you really want to cut the spending, vote for the big, beautiful bill. Kristi Noem was saying the exact same thing in the Oval Office today.
So in 2020, I was a governor of a neighboring state to Tim Walz and watched him let his city burn. And the president and I have talked about this in the past, and he was not going to let that happen to another city and to another community where a bad governor made a bad decision. So Claudia Sheinbaum came out and encouraged more protests in LA, and I condemn her for that. She should not be encouraging violent protests that are going on. If people are allowed to peacefully protest, but the violence that we're seeing is not acceptable, and it's not going to happen in America. This president is standing up for the average American who wants to walk their child to school every day safely, run their small business, and provide for their families. That's the action that he's taken. He has every authority under the Constitution to send these National Guard under Title X into these communities and make sure that operations go smoothly, that law enforcement officers are protected, that they can continue to do their work without fear of being injured or killed or disrespected, and that they can go home to their families at night. So I'm incredibly proud of the president for activating the National Guard and for sending in these Marines, because these Marines are specifically trained to meet the need that we have on the ground in LA right now. And Governor Newsom has done a disservice to the state of California for many years. The people there should never elect him into a leadership position ever again.
How many riots has this been under Gavin Newsom? How many fires has this been under Gavin Newsom? I've lost track. He is a failed governor. California is a failed state. I remember when I was a kid, I would go to California. My mom's from California. We would go out there all the time to visit friends, visit family. It was always beautiful. It was always like paradise. Sure, as a kid, you don't see anything else. But we used to go there all the time because my wife has family who's from California, too. And we got friends who are in California. And I've watched it devolve into this homeless cesspool of crime. That's what California is now. I don't even want to go to Disney anymore. I don't even want to go to Pico Boulevard where all the kosher restaurants anymore, because I know what I'm going to find when I get there. The place is a crime-ridden cesspool, which is why so many people left. But this is the Democrats' new MO. They're egging this insanity on. One example, earlier today, Nick Brown, Washington's Attorney General, did an interview with KUOW. Another guy who's looking for headlines. Why? I'm going to tell you why. So right now, Nick Brown and Bob Ferguson, despite having over 800 lawyers inside the Attorney General's office, have not figured out how to sue to go against President Trump's travel ban. Reminder, last time Donald Trump put in a travel ban in his first term, Bob Ferguson, then Attorney General, sued immediately on behalf of CARE, an organization with terrorist ties, to get it stopped, and he won. Well, this new one was crafted knowing people like Bob Ferguson were going to sue, and Bob doesn't know what to do. On his social media, he wrote this 15 minutes ago. Ready? Proud to join community members today to speak out against President Trump's latest travel ban. Washington was the first state to challenge the initial travel ban in 2017, and we won. While it is difficult to believe we are back at it again, Washington will lead on this issue as we did before. Hang on. You guys usually sue within 24 hours, 48 hours of one of these things, and you haven't sued yet. In fact, I don't think anybody else has sued on this one yet either, which means you likely don't have a case. So translation, I'm here for you, but I can't do anything because this thing's actually legal, but I'm here for you. What did Nick Brown tell KUOW earlier today?
The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, has threatened to mobilize active-duty Marines in response to the protests in Los Angeles. And this would seem to be in, violation of laws against U.S. military engaging in law enforcement on U.S. soil, the Posse Comitatus Act. Do you take that as a serious possibility from the federal government at this point from what you've seen?
Well, we certainly have to take anything that the Secretary of Defense says seriously on the one hand, because these are the people that are in control of our various government entities. But to hear that from the Secretary of Defense is pretty scary because, as you note, you can't simply do that because you want to. And I think more broadly, what we're seeing from the president is, it really does meet the definition of fascism. And I don't say such a thing lightly. I think we have to be very careful about our language, but we're seeing authoritarianism, we're seeing dictatorial behavior, we're seeing that to suppress what the president believes is the opposition, and we're seeing a disregard for the rule of law, all of which are characteristics of a fascist government. And, when the Secretary of Defense is talking about activating the U.S. military to quell some disturbance in a city involving American citizens, we have to treat that very seriously, even though it's unprecedented and I think would be illegal.
It's not unprecedented. It's not illegal. And here's something else. Fascism, dictator, authoritarianism. Because you think he's going against the rule of law? He's the one enforcing the law. The Democrats aren't doing anything to stop these riots. They only did once he sent in the Marines and once he sent in the National Guard. And by the way, the Marines aren't even on the streets. They're just being staged at Camp Pendleton and heading towards Los Angeles in case they're needed. Yes, that helicopter video was from a video game. There are not Apache helicopters in downtown Los Angeles. That would be cool. But no. This isn't Die Hard, where you have these helicopters swooping down streets for hostage exchanges on the roof of the Nakatomi Plaza. That's not what we're seeing right now. You are egging them on, Nick Brown, because these activists use the same language. You have adopted their language. What'd you pull out? The Antifa synonym dictionary? Just, authoritarianism. Fascism. Dictatorship. All the people on the streets are the ones who are silencing opposition, who are attacking anything they don't like, who are trying to burn down the country. What does that sound more like? And you're on their side? Because you're definitely not on the side of Washingtonians. They are literally breaking bricks off the sides of the buildings to attack federal agents. Who's on the side of law and order? And here's a question I have for my audience. What do you think would happen if these psychos tonight decide to start rioting? So let's see, it's 3:20 right now. What do you think is going to happen at 5 o'clock when all their reinforcements get there? Katie Daviscourt from the Post Millennials there right now. We're going to check in with her later today. But what do you think is going to happen at 5 o'clock when there is scheduled a pro-Hamas rally for the light rail station at University of Washington? What do you think is going to happen tonight when they know that the Attorney General, the top cop of Washington State, isn't going to do anything? When the governor and the Attorney General are on their side? When the mayor of Seattle is on their side? What do you think's going to happen? You think they're worried about anybody stopping them? They want the fight. They want the attention. And they think by going after Trump, by attacking these buildings, that they're going to get the American people on their side. Really? You think so? Need I remind everybody that after 2020, Seattle finally elected a more moderate Seattle City Council. Bet they're going to do that again. This isn't going to help the left. This is going to hurt the left. And once again, Seattle will be a national joke. Summer of Love Part 2. Electric Boogaloo Part 2. Volume 2. Give me your choice of words for it for the title name of the movie, because that seems to be the track we are heading on right now. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, a tragedy in Seattle as two people are run over by a truck backing up near an elderly facility. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You guys are entertaining over on the text line today. I put out the question, what would you call the movie title of Summer of Love Part 2? 253 says Chop 2.0. Becky in Enumclaw says, you asked for a movie title? How about Dumb and Dumber? Robin Lakewood's quoting The Dark Knight. Some men just want to watch the world burn. You guys are doing great today. This is really, really good. 253 says this. Talking about Gavin Newsom, Captain Hairgel is worried about getting too close to the dumpster fire he created. His head will catch on fire. I like that one. As Mike would say, I award you 5 comedy points for today. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Ian in Tacoma. Ian, what's up?
Now, Ari, you got to be more gentle with the Democrats and the whole National Guard thing. After all, they still haven't gotten over their defeat at Little Rock.
Oh, very good. Very good. You also are awarded 5 comedy points today. We should start a scoreboard here at the show. The 253's got 5. You've got 5. We should make a contest today for who's the funniest Ari Hoffman Show listener. Well done, Ian. Very well done. You want to be part of the show today, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Switching gear over to something else that's happening locally. This story was first reported as a truck backing up and running over a homeless tent with 2 people in it. That's not actually what happened. According to Como News, 2 elderly women sitting inside a smoking area in a parking lot of a senior living community were killed when a transport van unintentionally backed into the structure Monday morning, according to the Seattle Police Department. Okay, I have questions. I know people are dead. I don't want to make light of it, but at the same time, you're in a senior center and you're in a smoking area. Let's just assume you were there just because it's a place to sit down, right? Let's just assume that. And maybe you can't hear too good, so you don't hear the thing going beep, beep, beep as it's backing up. This thing is a terrible, terrible tragedy. It really is. The SPD said the vehicle struck the 2 women while reversing, killing them. A third woman was also there and narrowly escaped the crash. She wasn't hurt. Yes, I can imagine this high-speed escape from that area. This is a terrible, terrible tragedy. People are going to try and make of it whatever they want. This is just a sad, sad tragedy. That's what it is. Other things that are happening in our area, holy cow. At Seatac today, U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers arrested a Canadian citizen who was wanted in Washington state for the rape of a child. Michael Yang, age 37, was taken into custody upon his arrival from Vancouver, British Columbia. According to officials, Yang was flagged by the National Crime Information Center as having an active warrant out of Mason County, Washington. Now, the reason we don't know more about the case or what he looks like is that stuff that's actually in the National Crime Information Center. You have to have special logins to get into it, and I'm actually going to try and get one of those logins. It's a nationwide law enforcement database that allows agencies to share critical information, including active warrants for a broad range of crimes. I assume the reason we don't have access to something like that is they don't want us guessing. I'm going to see if I can do something about that. CBP officers routinely use the system to identify and apprehend individuals wanted for serious offenses such as homicide, sexual abuse, fraud, drug trafficking, and more. Following his arrest, Yang was transferred to the custody of the Shelton Police Department. Now remember, this person who was arrested on child rape charges from Canada, these are the kinds of people that Pramila Jayapal wants to keep in our state. These are the kinds of people that Pramila Jayapal, Nick Brown, Bob Ferguson, all the rest of them want to keep in our state. Ask them why. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up?
Hey, I was just going to tell you that, you know, in your last segment when you talked about the fact that you played that police scanner SPD clip, right there. That tells me right there that as soon as I either win $500 out of the lottery or whatever, I'm getting away from downtown Seattle because I want no part of it.
Somebody actually said that if we built the sports stadium somewhere else and concert halls somewhere else, they wouldn't even come to Seattle anymore. Leonard, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We've got more suggestions for the movie title of The Summer of Love. This one from the 425, Senseless in Seattle. That's not bad. I like that one. I'll give you a couple of comedy points. What's this? Mike, you may have to help me out with this one. Let's call the summer Return to Azkaban. Azkaban? That's not a thing I do. I don't know that one.
Heck if I know.
Okay, I don't know that one. Dan, you're going to have to clarify that one. Sorry, our nerd level only goes so far. I don't know that one. You have to fill us in on that one. Conway says, Send in the Clowns. Yep, I like that one. That's the song. That's going to be the theme song for the second Summer of Love. Oh, wait, here we go. We got this one from the 206. Hot Chops, Part 2. I don't know.
Bad.
That's not bad either. That's not bad. You guys are funny today. This is why I love the text line. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, 113 Democrats refuse to condemn a terror attack. Nobody who's interested in law and order, public safety, or fighting the war on terror should vote for a Democrat ever again. We'll tell you what happened in D.C. when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. There was a resolution proposed by Republicans in the House of Representatives today to condemn the terror attacks against Jews in Boulder, Colorado. Now, these terror attacks were committed by an illegal immigrant who's also a Muslim, a guy whose social media looks like he's a member of Hamas, a guy who was linked to the Muslim Brotherhood, a terrorist organization. Now, 113 Democrats did not vote to support this legislation, including most of the Washington delegation. The only Washington delegation members who voted to support this, who are Democrats, are Kim Schreier and Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez. The rest of them, including Adam Smith, voted to oppose this. Why? Because they like sanctuary states. So even though you are now seeing a terrorist attack committed by an illegal immigrant, violence committed by illegal immigrants, even though all of that, you don't want to admit you were wrong. It's absolutely crazy. This is a non-binding resolution that just says we don't like terror attacks. And you guys wouldn't vote for it? Are you kidding me? No Jew should ever vote for a Democrat ever again if they opposed something like this. I know inevitably one of you are going to call with the following question. Ari, why do Jews vote for Democrats? Let me answer it a little bit more in depth than I ever have before, especially after something like this. One, this is like in any other religion, how when people go off the path, they usually replace religion with some kind of political ideology. Judaism gets replaced with socialism, communism, environmentalism, even capitalism, whatever the case may be, they replace it with some other ism. And unfortunately, a lot of synagogues now, where they are the less observant branches of Judaism, have turned into Democrat training grounds and recruitment centers. There's almost no religion involved unless they're having matzo ball soup or maybe Hanukkah. Maybe because there's presents involved. It's all about this thing called tikkun olam, which is a taken out of context phrase that means repairing the world. Well, they forgot the rest of the sentence. It's tikkun olam b'malchut Shaddai. Repair the world in the kingdom of heaven, in God's image, the way God would want it to be. You think God wants people rioting in the streets? You think God wants people killing each other? Last time I checked, there's a commandment about killing each other and all this other stuff that these illegal immigrants are doing. So they just take that little phrase, repairing the world, and apply it to everything else. What happened was, for decades after the Holocaust, the less observant branches of Judaism focused solely on the Holocaust. Never forget, never forget, never forget, never forget. Drilled it into us kids. And then they realized, this is a bummer. We're chasing people away from the faith. So what they did was, what can we do that's new and peppy? Oh, repair the world. Let's all go fix the world together. Let's feed some homeless people. Let's all go clean up some waste on the ground. Let's go recycle. And then eventually it just went down the rabbit hole to more and more leftism. Let's also not forget, it wasn't that the Republicans were opposed to Jews or opposed to Israel, but the Democrats in the 1950s, 60s, 70s were the big champions of Israel. And that has changed drastically, where now you have 113 Democrats who refuse to even condemn a terror attack. You want to know how you get more people voting Republican? In this last election, Donald Trump had the most Jewish voters of any president since George H.W. Bush. After October 7th, a lot of people in the Jewish world who are more traditional, who may not be more observant, said, this is crazy. The Democrats are backing the terrorists. The Democrats are backing the Gaza encampments. We're going over there. The people who are left are the ones who really don't care about Judaism that much anymore. Or there are some who just can't leave their home team. For example, I'm a Mets fan. Even when the Mets suck, that doesn't mean I go over to the other team. Some people treat politics the exact same way. But I know a lot of people and a lot of other branches of Judaism that are less observant that said, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. I know people who would have voted for Kamala Harris who said, I don't like Donald Trump, but I can't vote for Kamala Harris, and voted for somebody else. They sat out this election because they said the Democrats have gone too far. And if you think the Jewish vote doesn't move needles, it actually does, and it did in the strangest way in this election. Jews are 2% of the electorate in this country, 2% of the population in this country. But they live in a lot of swing states, and they live in a lot of swing districts. Those Jews helped nudge the victory towards Donald Trump. But here's something else. Who are you going to back, the only democracy in the Middle East or the terrorist organization? If you are choosing the terrorist organization, can you even call yourself a Jew anymore? There's an organization tonight for Jewish Voices for Peace. We found out some time ago that they're actually being run by a lot of non-Jews. In fact, a lot of people in the Muslim world. A lot of these people take on a Jewish name to seem Jewish who aren't actually Jewish. So they can go protest and say, I identify as a Jew. I know what I'm talking about. My favorite was one of them at University of Washington who was showing me a map of Israel sideways. And I said, you sure you're holding that correctly? And they flipped it over so it was sideways the other direction. They don't know which river. They don't know which sea. And many of them have given up the faith entirely. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
Good lead-in, because quite frankly, I'm calling from the King County Clown Show, also known as the King County Council. I blind CC'd you on a blast email about this, but first, they decided to award Anna Marie Koss, the failed UW president, with a Martin Luther King Jr. award. Gag, vomit.
For what? For her huge accomplishments of letting her campus get taken over by Antifa and Hamas?
And super UW terrorists.
Yeah. She's done a bang-up job. Woo! Really well done. What else were they talking about today, Joe?
They also had a bunch of federal priorities, and and they whined about ICE trying to enforce their immigration laws, and they got a nice public comment from me where it's very polite, but I told them, among other things, there's an East Side superstar politician who no, not Claudia Badessuti, somebody else, who has asked me to not connect her good name with the Jewish faith because of all the anti-Semitism. And not just Zimmerman, but, the other incidents like Super UW. And I asked the council, why don't you add to your federal priorities working together to address anti-Semitism? It went in one ear and out the other, man.
Yeah, these are the ones who refuse to do anything about it. Let's remember, they refused to adopt any of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definitions of anti-Semitism. They were given the choice, and they didn't do it. Joe, appreciate you being on the ground for us. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, more of your movie titles for the Summer of Love, too. More of your calls, more of your texts. Plus, why is the Seattle Times trying to get us to boycott businesses? We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I know some of you have been waiting on hold for a while. We will get to your calls. We will get to your texts. But first, this insanity from the Seattle Times. So the Seattle Times has been trying to guilt everybody into sponsoring the Pride Parade. Apparently, the Pride Parade is down hundreds of thousands of dollars because people don't want to sponsor it. My guess is they don't want to sponsor it for two reasons. One, they don't want to have their logo behind what we've seen at the Pride Parade. That's number one. And two, a lot of them are reforming their DEI stuff. Also, here's three, by the way. Right now, the economy hasn't fully recovered yet. It's on its way. It's not there yet. A lot of them are saying we have to trim our expenses. But rather than addressing most of this, the Seattle Times decides to name and shame. Which Washington companies are not returning as Seattle Pride Parade sponsors? Oh, are you giving us a list? Are you trying to imply these are companies we shouldn't frequent? Well, it's funny how you wrote this article. First paragraph. Several Seattle area companies and organizations are not returning as sponsors for the Seattle Pride Parade, including Boeing, the Expedia Group, and Amazon's LGBTQ+ Employee Resource Group. Okay, let's go 6 paragraphs down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You mention Expedia. Shall I just read this? In a statement, an Expedia Group spokesperson said the company has proudly supported Seattle Pride for many years and had requested to renew its sponsorship, but were denied by organizers. So, wait a minute. You're trying to shame Expedia here, which I didn't even know still existed. I didn't know anybody still uses Expedia. But you're trying to shame Expedia. And they wanted to sponsor the Pride Parade, and you're shaming them anyway? You have to go 6 paragraphs down after you bash them twice to find out that they wanted to renew their sponsorship, and you wouldn't let them? Okay, guys, this is enough. You know what we're going to do? We're going to do this again, my friends. If you tell me today that you canceled your subscription to the Seattle Times, text us. You get a shout-out on air. You text us at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, I know a lot of you are saying, hey, I want to support these companies that aren't supporting the Pride Parade. So, Amazon, Expedia, Boeing, these are a few here. We got all these going on here. There's a whole list of it. Crystal Mountain. Well, I don't know how you really... Does Crystal Mountain do that biking in the summer down the hill? I don't know. That sounds awesome. That'd be a lot of fun. We got other ones here. We got other ones like Starbucks, T-Mobile. You got all these companies you could be supporting, local companies, because the Seattle Times is trying to make you not support those local companies. To be on the Seattle Times hit list. Guys, you're in good company. Join the club. First time? Welcome to the club, my friends. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. We go to Bear in Tacoma, who has been holding very, very patiently to share with me his movie title for the Summer of Love 2. What do you got for me, Bear?
Socialist in Seattle.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Socialist in Seattle.
Socialist in Seattle. I like that. That's not bad. But isn't that Kshama Sawant's title? Well, she is back. She's running for Congress, right? We can keep that one?
Oh, sure. You know, we got to keep calling them what they are. They keep calling them liberals and all these other names. Let's just call what they are, socialist.
Yeah, we should call them socialist. We should call them communist. We should call them Marxist, because none of them are actually liberals. They're not Democrats at all anymore, which is so sad that the Democrat Party is heading over in that direction. Bear, great call, great comment. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Hang on. We got some people over here on the text line. Let's see what we got here. So, Rob in Tacoma. Rob says that he has canceled his Seattle Times subscription. Oh, God bless you, Rob. You get the special music for canceling your subscription to the Seattle Times. If you want to join Rob in the heavenly court of those who have canceled their Seattle Times subscription, you text us at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your texts, plus what King County is doing to protect their bus drivers, because for so many years they wouldn't allow cops on the buses. We'll tell you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Greta Thunberg is finally deported from Israel, and what happened on that plane ride is very, very entertaining. But before we get to any of that, got some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
Katie Daviscourt is reporting from the federal building right here in downtown Seattle that the anti-ICE Antifa mob is equipped with riot gear and is growing larger by the hour. More bodies are expected after rush hour once everyone is off work. The group has barricaded all of the garage exits to the federal building in Seattle for several hours now. They are trying to prevent ICE Seattle from leaving the building and apprehending illegal immigrants and trying to stop them from going to court proceedings. Now, during the break, we also got a caller who called in, wanted to remain anonymous, but apparently works near the federal building and spoke to Mike. Mike, what do you know?
Yeah, well, basically, it's and I felt bad for this caller too because they were just going to work.
Yeah,
and it was like, well, is this the call-in line? Did you guys know that there's like a mob of Antifas coming to the federal building? And at first
I hate to laugh. Yeah.
I was like, well, yeah, we're actually going to talk about that later in the show. Had no idea. It's like, and could you imagine if you're just trying to start your work day and suddenly the place next to where you work is overrun with Antifa stormtroopers?
Yeah.
Friggin' Meal Team 6 and the whole gang. But no, what they shared with me is like, even in the time that I was chatting with this person, they saw more and more people coming, and all in black bloc and the umbrellas and gas masks, specifically. Intents to break windows. And in this caller's opinion, it's going to start getting real because they're coming.
So this is crazy that they all show up and they assume they can get away with this. And here's the thing. In Seattle, they probably can. Because Sean Barnes said his biggest priority today, he gave this interview while this crowd was forming at the federal building. Oh, I'm worried about Donald Trump arresting me. Are you kidding me? Here's what he said earlier today.
The Seattle Police Department is neutral in all manners of protests. We are not on the side of anyone other than the Constitution and the ability for people to express themselves.
I'm sorry. What did you just say? I hadn't heard that clip till just now. I asked Mike to pull it, and I hadn't heard till just now. Hang on. We're neutral. So, you want to destroy a building? We're neutral. We're neutral. That's just freedom of expression. You want to attack some police? We're neutral. Just neutral. That's your Seattle police chief. Man, you thought Carmen Best was bad. What else? What other pearls of wisdom did this fool have to say?
I want to be clear. To protect anyone in Seattle from anyone who comes to this city with the intention to hurt them or inhibit their First Amendment rights.
Okay, so you guys gonna do that for the Christians? You did. You stuck up for that, and then the mayor threw you under the bus. Who are you really referencing here when you say anybody intends to come to Seattle? You talking about Antifa?
And what that means is, at some point, I will probably go to jail.
Whoa! You think Donald Trump is coming after you, Sean Barnes? He doesn't even know who you are. He's like Thanos looking at that Scarlet Witch. Has no idea who you are. And you think you're going to get arrested for upholding the Constitution. Tell you what, Sean, while you have the police department go help out the feds, are you going to let them do that today? Because earlier I saw them retreating from the D-list Antifa squad. I assume that's an order that came from you or came from the mayor's office. If you guys are in the vicinity of the federal building and have tips to share with us on what's going on down there, give us a call or a text or an email. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Or email me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. All right, people over on the text line, if you guys keep giving me movie titles that have to do with poo, we're not doing movie titles for the Summer of Love anymore. No more poo titles. Besides, that's San Francisco. We got our own problems. We ain't there yet. Yeah, here's one. Durkin Family Values. She's not the mayor anymore, guys. Funny, but no, not Durkin Family Values. Unbelievable, this insanity that's going on here. Meanwhile, who are all these lunatics at the federal building trying to save, trying to help the illegal immigrant criminals, after all, or they just want an excuse to riot? You think the professional agitators from Antifa got bored of California and said, you know what? Hundreds of squad cars showed up last night, so they're not screwing around anymore. Where can we go next? Let's go to Seattle. Let's do this stuff there. You know what would be funny, by the way? If right now ICE was doing raids in the rest of the greater Seattle area, and we're drawing in everybody to this one location so that they wouldn't be going to where the other ICE raids are. I assume there are other ICE facilities. I assume that's where you guys could go. Head on out there because there's plenty of people to round up. For example, this one here, a citizen of Mexico is illegally living in Stanwood, was charged with 2 counts of assault of a federal officer on Monday for crashing a truck into government vehicles. 25-year-old Victor Vivanco Reyes is a prolific offender and an illegal immigrant, and he was being sought by Homeland Security, ICE, Border Patrol, you name it. Oh, in fact, his criminal history is so intense that you actually had the air and marine operations from the Border Patrol going after this guy. So these agents tried to arrest him in the Mount Vernon area. They spotted his vehicle, tried to get him to pull over using lights and sirens, but he sped away in a residential area, and they ended their pursuit because they thought it was too dangerous to do a pursuit in a residential area. On Friday, agents tried again to find him, this time on Camino Island. Shortly after 9:30 a.m., federal authorities found a work truck tied to his employer. The truck was towing a trailer on Cascade View Drive, where agents in 3 different vehicles tried to block the road in both directions so they could take him into custody. When the agents activated their emergency lights, the truck and trailer sped up towards one of the vehicles, hitting it in the front passenger side. Eventually, the truck and trailer crashed head-on into another government car a short distance down the road. After the crash, he kept going, driving into a ditch and hitting a power pole. He then got out of the truck and ran, but was arrested. 2 agents were hurt in the crash and taken to the hospitals. Are these the kind of people these activists want to keep in Washington? Apparently so. It seems like these are the ones they want to keep here in our state, in our country, in our city. And it's crazy. Do you think Bob Ferguson would do anything if there were riots tonight in Seattle? Do you think Bruce Harrell is going to do anything if there are riots tonight in Seattle? No, you know what they're going to do? They're going to do the same thing as Gavin Newsom. They're going to do the same thing as Karen Bass. Here's what Gavin Newsom said.
Causing mischief and mayhem. What's your message to those people who are out there tonight? Not the peaceful protesters that are out there protesting for the rights of immigrants, but for the people that are doing damage to buildings, to law enforcement out there.
Well, they're doing more than damage to buildings and to property. They're potentially damaging the very foundation of our, republic. The democracy is in the balance. I mean, you're seeing these authoritarian tendencies now are being acted out by this administration. And we're case in point as it relates to nationalizing, federalizing the National Guard, threatening now to put in Marines. So I hope these people would pause and just consider. Now, some of them, they want that kind of chaos. Some ways, they're adjacent to where Donald Trump is. But the peaceful protesters, we want to keep them safe. We want them to exercise their fundamental rights. We want to keep those that are enforcing the laws in a respectful and responsible way also safe. But Donald Trump needs to pull back. He needs to stand down. Donald Trump is inflaming these conditions. This is Donald Trump's problem right now, and if he can't solve it, we will.
So, He's not blaming Antifa. He's not blaming the activists. He's not blaming the illegal immigrant criminals or any of the government agencies or government-sponsored agencies that are backing them. No, he's blaming Donald Trump. You know the exact same thing is going to happen here, right? If these guys go crazy like it looks like they're going to do tonight, then you know what's going to happen. Ferguson, going to blame Trump. Bruce Harrell, going to blame Trump. Now, here's the thing. You don't often get a chance at a do-over. Bruce Harrell has been under fire for the fact that he went after the Christian community and SPD as opposed to Antifa when on Memorial Day weekend, Antifa decided to disrupt the Christian rock concert in Cal Anderson Park. Bruce Harrell has a chance at a do-over. Let me remind you why Bruce Harrell is mayor right now. Jenny Durkin, former mayor of Seattle, allowed the Summer of Love. And she was hated by everybody because at the beginning, she was there telling SPD to protect the East Precinct, right? When did she realize the activists were so mad, rather than asking for the National Guard and having Jay Inslee help her out, she didn't do that. She said, you know what? Forget it. Let's hand over 6 blocks of the city to Antifa, to BLM. Let's abandon an entire police precinct. Let's try something new, some out-of-the-box thinking. Let's just give them what they want. Let's give the terrorists what they want. She had to announce she wasn't going to run for re-election. People hated her so much because she tried to play both sides. First, she tried to be the law and order person as a former U.S. attorney. Then she said, you know what? These Antifa people are really, really loud. I'd rather stick with them. Let's give them everything they want. And she became a national joke, especially after going on Chris Cuomo's show on CNN and saying, who knows? We can have the Summer of Love. This is Jenny Durkin's mantra. This is her legacy. She will never have a career in politics ever again because from then on, she is the Summer of Love mayor. Bruce Harrell got elected because people thought he was going to be the law and order guy. He's just been an empty suit. He's been a placeholder. But you know what? He gets a chance at a do-over. You know when you're a kid and you're playing sports like baseball, stickball, whatever the case may be, and you don't have referees, you're just playing in somebody's backyard or whatever, and you can't agree on a call, and you get to say, do-over. Bruce Harrell gets the chance at a do-over. Because if tonight he actually sends in the SPD to stop these people from smashing windows, the law and order people will be like, well, you know what? He tried something, he sucked at it, but he stepped up where it counts. If anybody's listening from his campaign, he has a chance to attempt to win back people on the right, people in the middle, common sense people. I doubt he'll take that opportunity. Let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, you're going to leave the decision in the hand of Sean Barnes. Sean Barnes, who I was just reminded by a caller. Sean Barnes, the police chief who failed his lie detector test, and they hired him anyway? That's Sean Barnes? The Sean Barnes who didn't want to reveal the information on one of the mass shooters in the city he came from because he thought that wouldn't be polite for their family, even though they just killed a bunch of kids in a school? That Sean Barnes? That's who we're trusting today? Gee, whose side do you think he's going to be on? Ours or Trans-Tifa when they show up tonight? Ours or any of these activists when they show up tonight? Plus, here's the other thing. These activists in Seattle, this is their hobby. This is what they do. They are professional agitators. Have they made the city better in any way, shape, or form? Of course not. If you're in downtown tonight, I highly recommend avoiding the federal building area. I got to figure out how I'm getting home tonight. That's my alternate route. Wonder if I'll just go by there to scoop things out. We're going to see if Katie Daviscourt, who's down there right now covering all this, is going to be able to join us in the 5 o'clock hour to give us an update on what's going on. But here's another thing you got to avoid tonight. The Hamasniks are planning on going out to the UW light rail station tonight to protest for their comrades not getting charged. That's going on tonight, too. So you're screwed if you're trying to drive in downtown Seattle, and you're screwed if you're trying to take the light rail tonight. Well, commute's going to be really fun. We don't do traffic on this show, but it looks like we just, by default, are doing it because of all the radical activists in Seattle. And why are they mobilizing tonight? Because they think they can get away with it. They think Bob Ferguson will back them up. They think Nick Brown will back them up. They think that Sean Barnes will back them up. They think that Bruce Harrell will back them up. Because they have in the past. Because they have as early as today. This is exactly their MO. Meanwhile, have things gotten better since then? No, we've just had more crime. You guys advocated for defunding the police. They defunded the police and crime got worse. You advocate for police not to be able to do pursuits. That's exactly what happened. Crime got worse. We had record homicide rates. You guys going to advocate for that again? You don't want us to get rid of the illegal immigrant criminals, drug dealers, gang members, human traffickers, child rapists. You don't want that? When you take the anti-law and order side, guess what you get? Guess what you inspire? Here. This is another story. We've done this story how many times? I don't even know. This is a news story. This is brand new as of today. You're going to feel like you're having deja vu. From Como News, a Covington grocery store suffered damage after thieves used a stolen car in a smash and grab early Sunday morning. Deputies respond to a burglary alarm at the Foss Market on Southeast 256th Street around 4 a.m., where they discovered several unknown suspects had used a stolen vehicle to crash through the front doors of a business. The market's windows and metal gate were damaged during the crime, and the similarly damaged car was abandoned at the scene. Police did not say if it was stolen from the store, and no description of the suspects was provided. The case remains under investigation. Do you think this is something that's going to stop anytime soon? It's not like the criminals got a notice that said, hey, guys, police pursuits are illegal again. You shouldn't be doing them. Hey, guys, the cops are trying to enforce the laws again. You shouldn't be stealing them cars anymore because they might actually pursue you. No. Instead, what are they doing? They are continuing to do what criminals do. It's not like they all just reformed and said, you know what, today I want to be a lawyer. Oh, you know what, today I want to be a gardener. No. Instead, what they did was they said, we're going to keep being criminals. We don't watch the news. And this is what you get after years of lawlessness. You know, I moved here back in 2004, and I loved it. What a beautiful city. And it hadn't gone crazy yet. When was it? Around 2010, 2012, 2014? Somewhere in that range is when Seattle started going to crazy town. When they said, oh, we're going to end homelessness, and they only made it worse. When they said, you know what, we're too mean to our criminals. We're going to take it easy on them. And everything started to spiral. Homelessness got worse. Fentanyl got worse. Drug overdoses got worse. Crime got worse. And everything got less affordable while all this was going on. So while the quality of life was going down, you had the cost of living here going up. And this is the product of that. How many friends do you have that fled to other states, other cities? I'm sure you have a bunch just like I do because they said, 1, we're not getting our bang for a buck. 2, it's unaffordable here. 3, yeah, it's beautiful in the summer, but why would I stay here the rest of the year when I know that at any moment Antifa could just take over the building I work in like our caller was talking about? That seems to be what's about to happen. We're going to keep you updated on everything that's going on down at the federal building as the show continues. And when we come back, one of the funniest stories of the news cycle, Greta Thunberg getting deported from Israel. Oh, the videos and audio are just delicious. We'll give you all the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including two tickets to see Pantera at the White River Amphitheater on August 22nd. That's right, my friends. You get to hear them live and in person. Plus, so many other fantabulous prizes. Yeah, another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Greta Thunberg is the gift that keeps on giving. The climate activist turned Hamas supporter has been deported from Israel. Just to catch you up if you haven't been following her odyssey. So her and a whole bunch of climate crazies decide to hop on board a sailboat and head on over to give aid to Gaza. Now, they're climate lunatics, but they don't know how to sail. So they were using the diesel as opposed to the big sails of their boat, but they did fly the Palestinian flag. That's as close to a sail as they got on that little ship. Now, they get close to Gaza, and the Israeli army says, there is a legal blockade here because people bring in terrorist weapons. Don't come in here. If you want to give aid, the port of Ashdod is right over there. You can go right over there. Plus, what were they thinking? So you're going to crash land into the beach in Gaza and just say, who wants aid? Come here. Have you not seen what Hamas does? They will come and kill you. Maybe we should have let them go. Maybe that would have solved it. Just let them crash into the beach and try and unload everything themselves. I mean, that's the aid they hadn't eaten. Yes, apparently they didn't pack well for the trip, so they were eating the aid they had tried to bring to Gaza. Plus, that is a very, very small, little tiny sailboat. So I'm not sure you're going to help anybody out. Meanwhile, the Trump administration in Israel is giving millions of meals a day to the people of Gaza. But I'm sure Greta Thunberg was going to make the big difference. So what happens? They get detained, and they give them health checks to make sure they're okay. They feed them, by the way. Hey, these guys are all vegetarians. Why are they eating turkey sandwiches? I got that question, too. The Israeli army gave them turkey sandwiches, gave them medical checks to make sure they're okay so they can't claim, oh, we were abused or whatever. And then says, we're going to show you the October 7th footage to show whose side you're on in this whole mess. And they refuse to watch it. So then Israel does the ultimate troll move. Greta apparently refuses to take airplanes. She refuses to take the airplanes because of her carbon footprint. Okay. So they stuck her in the back seat in front of the bathroom where you can't recline for a 6-hour flight back to Sweden. Now, anybody who's ever been on El Al before, and I don't know if she flew El Al, but any flight going to Israel, you're going to get a bunch of Jews on the airplane. So let's go over the things Greta was going to have to deal with. Big flight from Israel, people eating a whole bunch of kosher food. Those lines to the bathroom are going to be epic. So are the smells coming from the bathroom themselves. But here's something else. So us Jews have to pray 3 times a day. At some point, people on that flight had to pray. They're going to be forming their davening prayer area in the middle of the aisles. The stewardess is going to be telling them to get out of the way right near Greta because they always go to the back of the plane where they won't get in people's way. Greta would have to deal with all the babies around because Jewish people got large families. In fact, we have some exclusive audio of what happened on the plane with Greta. Apparently, the passengers were none too happy she was there.
I'm telling you, I'm getting the off, and there's a reason why I'm getting the off, and everyone can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two but I am telling you right now, that mother back there is not real.
Yeah, she saw Greta in the back of the plane and just completely freaked out. Now, I think that lady had a point. Now, mind you, this was actually Greta on the plane. She's there in the back seat, can't recline for a 6-hour flight, and no electronics because she threw her electronics overboard when she was caught by the IDF. Probably because they were worried because they were coordinating with Hamas or whoever's in Gaza that they would be detained and have bigger problems. So the climate activists threw their lithium-ion devices into their plastic devices into the water because they're so climate friendly. And now she's just stuck in the back of the plane with nothing to do for 6 hours. By the way, back of the plane on El Al, I don't think they got the TVs there for a 6-hour flight. So literally had nothing to do but hang out with the Jews. It's probably her hell on earth. Here's something else. Ever since October 7th, and this is a real audio clip I'm going to play now. Ever since October 7th, the things they say on El Al is always, we're praying for our troops, we're praying for the hostages to come home. Somebody on Greta's flight recorded that, because here's what they actually played.
To thank our security forces and the IDF for protecting and defending our homeland, and we want to wish the swift return of all hostages.
So Greta had to hear a whole plane full of Jews and Christians and whoever else applauding that message, knowing she's surrounded by people who not just know who she is, but think she's a dumb moron. Then she proved she was a moron. So she gets arrested by the French officials at the airport. Gets arrested. And she blamed Israel for kidnapping her. They'd just detained her and sent her on her way. Gave her a ticket, a free ticket. Hey, I would take a free ticket to Israel even if it's in the back of the plane. I don't care. You give me a free ticket to Israel and you give me a turkey sandwich, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be thrilled, but not Greta. So Greta, she gets interviewed by the media afterwards on her arduous journey. And she proved what happens when you don't graduate high school. You sound like a dum-dum. This is her trying to answer questions of the media.
Which is very worrying because people were not being treated well. I was not able to say goodbye to people, and I don't know what's happening. And there were many issues.
When you say they're not treated well, what do you mean?
Well,
could you elaborate for us?
Obviously, in a very dehumanizing way. But of course, I have to stress nothing compared to what Palestinians are going through.
But still, can you give us some, what happened to you when you arrived in Ashdod port? I mean, were you taken off the boat? Was there any violence? Were you detained? How? Where?
No, I prefer not to go into details about that. We arrived there, we were detained, and then we were, yeah.
I don't know if you know.
Those wheels are working overtime. Now, let's analyze this for a second. The foreign media hates Israel. The European media hates Israel. So they're like, we're going to get our headline. Israel tortured Greta. We're going to have it all over the front page. So can you tell us about the torture? I'd rather not discuss. That means nothing happened. These are the people who want to run with your BS, but you can't back it up. Maybe if you had finished high school, you'd be better about lying about not doing your homework. Maybe. Just maybe. But no, Greta, it's favorable media to her. They want the hot goss. And you couldn't provide it because Israel gave you a sandwich and they documented everything and then sent you on a free flight home. A free flight home. Oh, we were dehumanized. Oh, boo-hoo. Greta Thunberg is a international joke at this point. How dare you? Right. She is an international joke. And I can't think of a more fitting punishment than nobody take her seriously ever again. Also, I got one other question. Where are her parents? Where are her parents that think it's okay to let their kid be this simp for the left that just, oh, yeah, we're just going to do whatever the left says. We're going to use the latest talking points. We're going to go to Gaza. Where are this kid's parents at this point? This is craziness, absolutely craziness. It's child abuse. It really is. You let this dumb child go out into the world, go to Gaza? Give me a break, guys. Yeah, Greta Thunberg will forever be an international joke. And good on Israel for trolling her with all the video footage and everything else. This just made my night at midnight last night when all this was happening on the other side of the world as I'm trying to go to sleep and doom scrolling. Oh, I couldn't stop laughing. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. Well, that may be a joke. People in Seattle are actually doing terrorist trainings. And we've got somebody who is on the inside of one of these training seminars and tells us how bad it was coming up next. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. My friends, last week we told you that Super UW, the anti-Israel, anti-American, pro-Hamas student organization that's been suspended and banned from the University of Washington for causing over $1 million in damage to the engineering building, was having a teach-in to teach terror. Well, a new friend of ours actually attended their virtual teach-in. I was pretty horrified by what she found. Joining us now on the KVI studio line, the Director of Education and National Security, Brandy Shufutinsky. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your organization, what you guys do.
Sure, I'm the Director of the National Security and Education Program at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, a Washington, D.C.-based nonpartisan think tank.
Okay, so do you guys focus on this kind of stuff a lot, or is Seattle special for you?
No, unfortunately, in this case, Seattle isn't special for us. This is exactly what we focus on.
Gotcha.
Our program.
So why don't you tell me with this whole thing you had to sit through, which looked pretty mind-numbing and horrible, tell us what you found.
So this was actually, it came onto our radar that they were hosting this event, but this organization came onto our radar a while ago after looking at the reports of the destruction that it seems some members of the student group caused on campus during some protest demonstrations since the October 7th Hamas-led massacre in Israel. This was super surprising because they were pretty explicit in their support and what it means to escalate. They were justifying armed struggle, saying it was a necessity, expressing support for the Al-Aqsa flood, which is the name that Hamas and other terrorist groups gave the October 7th, 2023 terrorist attack in Israel. And they went on to just name the things that they believe that students and people should be doing here in the United States and in the West to express solidarity and support for the terrorism that we saw on October 7th.
I think that this is going to be an information sharing interview because I've been tracking these guys for some time. And let me tell you some other things they did. So these are the same guys that last year after October 7th took over and invaded the Husky Union building, the big student union building on campus. They caused over $50,000 in damage that time. These are the same guys. We have video of them giving out Hamas propaganda from the Hamas media office on campus, selling T-shirts with depictions of terror and depictions of October 7th, and happily admitting they got this stuff from Hamas and they're giving it out. Is this unique to Seattle, or is this something you're seeing across the country at places like Columbia?
Unfortunately, it's something that we're seeing in multiple campuses and multiple schools across the country. It's not unique to Seattle. However, I will say that this is one of the worst instances that I've seen of explicit support for terrorism.
So what they were doing on this teach-in, tell us about it. What were they actually calling for? Were they saying, here's how you make a Molotov cocktail? Were they saying, hey, we got to do armed uprising? We got to do intifada on the streets? Did they give direct action? What exactly were they teaching on this thing?
So they started off really justifying October 7th, so that's the October 7th terrorist attack, and justifying armed struggle. The beginning, probably I would say 5 minutes of the event, they put armed resistance as a necessity, as a scientific necessity, and they posted a graphic that depicted the scientific method, but put over labels that are talking about armed resistance as the scientific method to throw off oppression. They also went on to give examples of other situations, historical situations, where they say it proved that past revolutionary struggles were only successful because they used armed resistance.
Unbelievable, yet so much not. This is absolutely crazy that this is a group that is still allowed to table and recruit at University of Washington. We're talking with Brandy Shufutinsky, who is the Director in Education and National Security for Defense of Democracies. Now, did they list any specific events, any calls to action aside from, hey, let's do armed resistance, or was it more general that they were talking about?
There were a couple of specifics that they gave. They talked about hosting an event today, actually, to support, I guess they're calling them the UW33. So 33 students who I believe were suspended from campus for taking part in that riot and the vandalism of the I don't remember which building is.
Wait a second. Wait a second. I hate to interrupt you. I know exactly which event you're talking about. So the guys who are promoting armed uprising and violence on October 7th, they're planning on today at 5 o'clock being at the University of Washington Sound Transit Station. They plan on going after that one. So it sounds like they're going after transit. It's something they've done before.
Right. And that they were advertising in that event at the Al-Aqsa support for Al-Aqsa and armed resistance events last week. They also have posted on their social media that they're going to host the People's Graduation. That's supposed to be on June 12th. And so there are a number of events that they're promoting.
Unbelievable. So we have homegrown terrorists. Are these illegal immigrant terrorists? Do we know where they're coming from? Or is it just whoever is the student population of University of Washington and whatever local activists want to be part of this?
We are not sure yet, at least as far as what we've seen. It could be a combination of all of those. We're not sure. We do know that they've shared some other concerning materials and information from groups that have been either labeled by the United States government as terrorist organizations or seem to have ties to terrorist organizations, one being Samadoun. So Super UW actually posted a statement that they were answering the call, and the call was a call published by Samadoun last year in 2024, where they were calling for escalation, an escalation of the global intifada here in the West.
So Samadoun is the organization that advocates to get terrorists out of jails and released from Israeli prisons. They're the ones that shut down I-5. They're the ones that held the first big rally in support of Hamas at the University of Washington campus in the days after October 7th. They are the ones who just last month were at the University of Washington after over $1 million in damage had been done to the engineering building, calling for more intifadas, more armed resistance, more uprisings, and more October 7th. So have you given all this information to the Trump administration? Have you heard back from the Trump administration? Are they doing anything about this?
I have not reached out to the Trump administration. The only thing that I've done is share what I found with media.
Okay, well, I think we're going to have to help you out with that because this is something, I mean, we're literally talking about something that's happening very, very shortly here in Seattle. And if they're already talking about terrorist attacks, God knows what they're going to do. These are the same lunatics that took over 6 square blocks of Seattle in 2020. Right now, we know there's a whole bunch of them trying to impede ICE operations here in Seattle. They're wearing blue keffiyehs, which I'm not familiar with. I think that's when you want to have an intifada and still be trendy. But this is the kind of stuff that's happening right here in Washington. Brandy Shufutinsky, great job at covering all this and exposing all this, and we really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Make sure you follow the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and Brandy over on social media so you can find out more about this insanity if it's happening near you as well. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including 2 tickets to Pantera. Yet another reason always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Also, if you want to see my freshly sunburned face and this receding hairline, make sure to stream us over at Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, and of course, over on X. I get the strangest emails, by the way. The strangest emails. I was kind of making fun of this one. They're always pitches to have people on to talk about different stories and different issues. And some of the ones I get, I read all of them, by the way, but some of them I just delete. Some of them I say, hey, I'd love to have you on the show. This headline caught my interest. Seattle named number 7 safest U.S. city for drunk driving in 2025. Does that mean it's the safest city to drunk drive in? Does that mean you're the safest from drunk drivers here? Does that mean you are our designated drunk driver? What does that headline? That is the subject line of this email. I kind of want to have them on to make fun of them, but I just read it for you verbatim, literally verbatim. I would say, well, maybe that PR firm either gets fired or gets an award because it caught my attention.
Well, I don't know. I think it's from the same folks who were defending that illegal migrant that caused Trooper Gadd's tragic death.
Oh,
because remember, we talked about that last week when it was like, oh, well, who among us hasn't because they were talking about oh, well, just we drive recklessly and all this other stuff. It was an interesting diffusion of responsibility to what they were actually doing, like driving 100 miles an hour or something.
Right.
This sounds very similar. It's like, oh, well, it's a safe place to drunk drive,
Well, here's the funny thing. I got this email for the first time last week, and sometimes they follow up, and I think I got it on the day the trial started. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, bad time. You want to tell me about safe drunk driving on the day you're having a trial begin for an illegal immigrant who was driving at over 100 miles an hour while drunk and high and killed a Washington State trooper? Let's get into the key highlights of this study, shall we? Seattle ranks number 7th in the U.S. for drunk driving safety. Once again, I don't know what you're talking about. Is that safety for the drunk driver? Here we go. Earning one of the lowest risk scores, 24.6, of all 100 cities analyzed. You know why I don't believe this, by the way? It probably doesn't include the pot also. Tacoma also appears in the top 20 safest cities, making Washington one of only a few states with multiple cities ranked in the national top 20. I don't believe you. And I'm going to tell you why. How many cops are actually pulling over people these days? Certainly not happening around here. Seattle scored just 35 for DUI arrests, 9 for alcohol-related fatalities, and only 35% of all traffic deaths involving alcohol, significantly lower than many major U.S. cities. You know what I think this is? I think this is like why our crime rate is going down, because people just aren't reporting it. A new study from Amanda Demanda Law Group. I'm sorry. I just read that now. I'm sorry. Is that for real? Is Amelia Bedelia also doing our studies now? Amanda Demanda? Are you kidding me with this?
Do they play for the Savannah Bananas? Perhaps they go to the law offices of Rob Loblaw.
Oh, God. See, Mike, this is the gold you get when I haven't fully read a press release and I read it live on the radio. I didn't even know the Amanda Demanda Law Group was the one. Wow. I know that this is a top-tier, fully researched story when the Amanda Demanda Law Group, they're not a sponsor, right? The Amanda Demanda Law Group is sending me
they're not
this.
now.
Now they're not going to be for sure. They revealed that Seattle, Washington. Mike, can you do me a favor? Look up the Amanda Demanda. See what city this law firm is in. I assume there's only one of them. Just a hunch. So they're the number 7 safest city. Miami. The
Amanda Demanda Injury Lawyers.
Amanda Demanda from Miami.
Yes.
Very catchy. I'm not going to forget that law firm ever. From now on, anytime we have a junk survey, it's going to be the Amanda Demanda Law Group is the one that gave it to us out of Miami. Tell me again how safe it is to drive in Seattle by the numbers you analyzed. This is why we cover local things, live and local, because when you talk about national things you don't know, you sound like Amanda Demanda.
Well, and not to be the stereotype, but looking on the Google machine here, really looks like an Amanda Demanda. Like what? How would you describe what someone called Amanda Demanda would look like?
A Karen with a high-end suit and jewelry.
Sure, yes, but more specific. Characteristics.
Characteristics?
What does Amanda Demanda look like?
Like she's very, very stern and spent a lot of money looking the way she looks.
Nope, you're going the wrong way.
Oh, I'm going the wrong way.
Going the wrong way.
I got it. I don't know.
Lawyer Barbie, ladies and gentlemen. Tall, blonde, white.
Okay, I messed that one up.
Very blonde.
All right,
very
my
white.
radar was off for
very
that one.
pink.
Should have gone that direction. Thank you, Mike. When we come back, the latest of what's going on down at the Federal Building in downtown Seattle, where Antifa and crew are massing to take on ICE. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including tickets to Pantera and a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. But before we get to any of that, got some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
It looks like more and more of these Antifa types and theater kids and cosplayers are showing up to the federal building in downtown Seattle, and it looks like they want a fight. It looks like they are trying to pick a fight with ICE. Now, here's what they're doing. They're in all their gear. They're in all the gas masks. They've got all their costumes on. Woohoo! Get to take off our keffiyehs and put on our Antifa gear. No, wait, there's keffiyehs there too. Never mind. Who am I kidding? Right. It's all the anarchists. It's all the Hamas types. They're all down at the federal building. Now, personally, if I was directing ICE right now, you know what I would do? There's other ICE locations. You know what I would do? I would tell them, go out and get everybody you can right now. Who do you know where they are? Where can they be? Go right now while all the lunatics are distracted in Seattle. Go round up as many as you can from greater Seattle, Western, get all of them. Get them all. We'll figure out what other detainment areas to put them in, not the federal building. Katie Daviscourt is reporting right now from the Post-Millennial. She's on the ground right there reporting that federal agents are on standby. Are they expecting violence tonight? It looks like one side wants it. What's the excuse? Did President Trump send the National Guard to Seattle? Did President Trump send the Marines to Seattle? I don't think so. But they're using all this as a pretext to do what they want to do, which is riot. Let's be clear about this. They have wanted to reestablish the autonomous zone for 5 years. Sun's out, Antifa's out. That has been their MO, and they are just looking for an excuse. That's what they're looking for. Hey, congratulations, guys. If you actually riot tonight, you know what's going to happen? You're going to make people like me right. When I say all you guys want is the riot, you don't actually have a cause. You don't care about ICE or Hamas or Gaza or anything. You just want the anarchy. You think this is going to convince anybody of your cause? Of course not. Absolutely not. In fact, President Trump was speaking today, and he was talking about Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, who's been completely useless in this whole thing. He's just using it to try and challenge President Trump. Basically, what all the Democrats are doing right now is they're basically that meme where they're poking somebody with a stick and going, do something, do something, do something. That's exactly what's happening right now. Exactly what is happening. Because they're trying to get Donald Trump to respond, because then they can say, oh, see, he's targeting me. He's targeting me. Sean Barnes, the Seattle police chief, is saying, oh, I might get arrested. Really? Give me a break, man. He doesn't even know who you are.
I want to be clear. To protect anyone in Seattle from anyone who comes to this city with the intention to hurt them or inhibit their First Amendment rights. And what that means is, at some point, I will probably go to jail.
Oh, give me I'm standing in the breach. I'm the one in between you and the Trump administration. Give me a break. So Gavin Newsom right now has the president's attention. Here's what he said in the Oval Office this morning.
Hey, Mr. President, when is the last time you spoke with Governor Newsom?
A day ago. Called him up to tell him, got to do a better job. He's doing a bad job, causing a lot of death and a lot of potential death. If we didn't send out the National Guard, and last time we gave him a little additional help, you would have, Los Angeles would be burning right now. Los Angeles would be not a lot different than what you saw take place in California and Los Angeles just a little while ago. And, you know, you got to remember, we have the Olympics coming, and we don't want people looking at Los Angeles like it would have been. It would have been bad. Last night they had total control. If we didn't have the military in there, the National Guard, and then we also sent in some Marines, we had some bad people. We have people, they look in your face and they spit right in your face. They're animals. And these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They're agitators. They're paid. Do you think somebody walks up to a curb and starts hammering pieces out, has all the equipment necessary, and starts handing it out to people to use as a weapon? These are paid insurrectionists or agitators or troublemakers. You can call it whatever you want. And we ended it, and we have in custody some very bad people. Some very bad people.
Mr. President.
Did you see the guy throwing the rocks at the police cars as they went by and crushing their windows and endangering our police? We're not going to let that happen.
Exactly right. He's exactly right. You think you're winning anybody over to your argument this way? No, and they know that. And the Democrats are egging them on. Why? Because these are their supporters out in the street. These are organized. These are paid protesters. Who were the protesters in front of Seattle City Hall yesterday? I'm going to prove it. Who were the protesters in front of Seattle City Hall yesterday? It was the people from the SEIU, labor union that backs Democrats, that the Democrats back with financial support as soon as they get into office, claiming they're defending the workers, claiming they're defending the working class. The working class doesn't want their businesses destroyed. The working class wants to be able to use the highways and the freeways. The Democrats are not the party of the working class. They're the party of Hamas and Antifa. They're the party of chaos. They're the party of violence. They're the party of destruction, as evidenced by what's going on in LA, as evidenced by the powder keg that is starting to build up in downtown Seattle. What are they protesting down there? I bet there's 10 other signs. Mike, you've been following the social media. I bet they have all the different kind of signs, right? We don't like ICE. We've got the keffiyehs. We've got the gas masks. I bet it's everything. I'm sure there's some socialists who are showing up, right? That's what's going on down there?
Well, it's all of that, but then also, and we talked about this earlier in the show, it's like their virtue signaling is so off now to where they're wearing just color tasseled scarves. It's like we were talking about this before we started the show, that like maybe people are just getting their laundry mixed up. It's like what does a blue keffiyeh mean? What does a gray keffiyeh mean? Those aren't real things.
We've spent a lot of time on the show doing keffiyeh legislation, as Mike would say, right?
I'm burdened with cursed knowledge now.
Mike has so much knowledge of the Middle East he never wanted, thanks to all this insanity. Mike could probably host the show for a day on Israel and be right on everything he's saying because he has heard so much of this stuff from me and has got it through osmosis.
I've been told I'm a sponge.
Indeed. Indeed. I have said that myself. A neon blue keffiyeh. Did you mix that up with your jeans? Did you wash them together and you put it on warm by accident? Are we back in the 1980s where we had to worry about that kind of stuff? Okay, so you've got your neon blue keffiyeh. I know what that's for. If we're doing the J. Peterman catalog, like in Seinfeld, right? For the fashionable activist who still wants to party at night, the neon blue keffiyeh. Give me a break. This guy is wrapped in a neon blue keffiyeh. And that's when you want to be fashionable in Tel Aviv. Hey, I mean, come on. This is stupid. This is stupid with all this.
Well, and at what point does it go from being a keffiyeh to just a tasseled scarf?
That's kind of what it is at this point. So the dude in the neon blue keffiyeh is holding more camera gear than I've ever seen in my life. Let me guess. I'm a journalist. I'm helping. That's what this guy is, right? I'm a journalist. You can't arrest me. Do you remember how many quote unquote journalists were out there during 2020 and they were just putting on the journalist gear so that the police couldn't do anything to them or so they could claim, oh, you attacked a journalist. Yeah, there were a whole bunch of people who claimed to be journalists who were working for Hamas on October 7th. We've seen this game before. This is crazy. This is what is happening downtown right now. What do you call a bunch of people waving the flags of another country who are trying to attack the law enforcement of this country? Sure sounds like a rebellion. What's another word for rebellion? An insurrection?
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We'll see. But I can tell you last night was terrible. The night before that was terrible. We have, as you've seen, it was on most of your networks, people with big, heavy hammers pounding the concrete and pounding curbs, pounding it, breaking up all, and handing these big chunks of concrete to people. And they were taking that concrete, going up on bridges and dropping it into the roof of a car. They were throwing it at our police. They were throwing it at our soldiers that are there. and we got it stopped, and we have them in custody right now. Look, if we didn't get involved, right now, Los Angeles would be burning, just like it was burning a number of months ago with all the houses that were lost. Los Angeles right now would be on fire, and we have it in great shape.
He's actually right. Now, mind you, things have resumed again tonight. We know there's violence once again in Los Angeles. But last night, you know what happened? I saw hundreds of police cars streaming into Los Angeles, into Santa Ana, to quell the riots. Why? Because Gavin Newsom wants to say he saved the day. So threatening to send in the Marines and staging the National Guard to protect federal property got Gavin Newsom to actually do his job, then that's a win. That's a win. Who are the Democrats fighting on behalf of? Rapists? Murderers? That's what it sounds like to me. President Trump had this to say also today.
Mr. President, these protests obviously started in reaction to these large-scale ICE operations in Los Angeles. Should people expect to see similar operations in the rest of the country?
Yeah.
And will similar protests see
Yeah,
similar response?
as you know, we're moving murderers out of our country that were put here by Biden or the auto pen. The auto pen really did. I mean, the people, whether it's Lisa Monaco or whoever operated the auto pen, these are criminals. The people are criminals that allowed these criminals into our country. And I don't think that Biden knew what the hell he was doing. I don't think he even knew about it. But when they opened up our borders for the whole world to come in, yeah, we're going to get them out. We're getting them out. We're starting to get acknowledgement from the courts that, you know, there's a system. They come in without courts and they go out, they want trials and everything else. I think that's starting to work out now. Judges are starting to see what a terrible situation it is. Many of those people that you saw on television last night are criminals that were allowed into our country by Biden.
He's 100% right. He's 100% right. They proudly carry the flag of another country while rioting against this one. There's a really dumb retort to that I've seen on my social media. Ari, you march with the Israeli flag all the time. In solidarity, carrying an Israeli flag on one side, an American flag on the other to say we're united against terror. Boom. Shut down that argument in 30 seconds. Also, are a whole bunch of Israelis trying to burn down this country? No, I didn't think so. This is insane what's going on right now. Waving the flag of a country you don't want to go back to attack the country you're in that you want to stay in? What sense does that make? President Trump was discussing this today when he spoke to, which Army base was it? Fort Bragg. He went to Fort Bragg today.
But they proudly carry the flags of other countries, but they don't carry the American flag. They only burn it. Did you see a lot of the flags being burned? They weren't being burned by people from our country or from people that love our country. People that burn the American flag should go to jail for 1 year. That's what they should be doing. 1 year. And we'll see if we can get that done. We're going to try and get that done. We're working with some of your senators. I know Senator Josh Hawley is very much involved.
Yeah, here's the thing, guys. The only American flags you see at these are the ones that the rioters are burning. Do you know what happened yesterday? Somebody showed up with a whole bunch of American flags and was handing them out to the protesters, because what's one of the big hits on these guys is that they're always carrying the Mexican flag and never the American flag. They're not saying we're proud to be in America. They're saying we're proud Mexicans who are breaking American law. We're proud illegal immigrants who are breaking American law. So somebody had the bright idea to show up with the American flags. You know what they did? Threw them away, burned them. Yeah, real proud to be here. I saw another video yesterday that was actually inspiring. I forget who posted it on social media. But it was a whole bunch of legal immigrants who are taking their oath of all colors, all shapes, all sizes, all ethnic groups, who are proud to be here, proud to be Americans, waving their American flags while taking their oath to be citizens of the United States. That's what we want. Not psychos who are ordering self-driving cars called Waymos to their location to light them on fire. Los Angeles used to be a beautiful city, and look what Democrat rule has done to it. You know, there used to be an old meme that went around, which was Detroit side by side with Hiroshima. And it showed Detroit in the 1940s when they dropped the nuclear bomb, and Hiroshima as the bomb's going off. And then it showed Detroit now, side by side with Hiroshima now. And Hiroshima has become this big, beautiful, bustling city, and Detroit's a cesspool. And the meme said, easier to recover from 75, 80 years after a nuclear explosion than 75, 80 years of Democrat rule. And you know what? That's what we're seeing in our streets right now. Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom are egging it on. Sean Barnes, I might get arrested. Presidents, I don't even know who you are. You think Bob Ferguson's going to call out the National Guard? You think Bruce Harrell's going to ask Bob Ferguson to call out the National Guard? I assume the Seattle Police Department is going to be told to stand down and let them wreck the city. Because who was the top cop in Washington the last time that happened? Oh, right. Bob Ferguson. Bruce Harrell. Bruce Harrell's been part of this mess for decades now. He's been part of Seattle politics. You think he's going to make anything better? No, he'll come out with some dumb statement. I oppose the President of the United States and Christians. I hate them Christians. I like Antifa, though. And I hate my police department. That's what Bruce Harrell will do. You know it as well as I do. If things get worse tonight, that is exactly what's going to happen. We're going to keep an eye on all this insanity throughout the rest of the broadcast to make sure that we're informing you. But I recommend right now you stay away from the federal building in downtown Seattle. Oh, and don't forget, it's 5:18 right now as I'm saying this. Those lunatics planned to shut down the UW light rail station on behalf of Hamas tonight. And you heard from our guest earlier, who was the one saying that they had been going to terrorist training seminars online. She attended one of them to see what they were being taught. Al-Aqsa flood here in the U.S. That's what they called October 7th. That's what they want to do here in the U.S. When they say globalize the Intifada, this is what they mean. And when we come back, my friends, the parents of one of the American hostages still held by Hamas will be joining the show to tell us what you can do. Tell us what you can do to try and help him in his predicament. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. My friends, with this next interview, it's very, very hard for me to know where to even begin because Itai Khan was killed during the October 7th attacks by Hamas, and yet Hamas is still holding him captive. He's one of the 2 remaining American hostages who is being held by Hamas and has been held for over 610 days in that hell in Gaza. Joining me now to discuss the situation of all the remaining 58 hostages, and the fact that 46 Americans were killed on October 7th is Ruby Khan, who is the father of Itai Khan. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm so sorry for what your family is going through.
Thank you, Ali, for having me. Just a small collection, 55. The number came down a bit.
It came down a bit since we got a couple
hostages.
back over the week, right? We got Judy and Gotti. We got them back, and we also got Weinstein. Yeah, and we also got back somebody else who was it a Taiwanese foreign national? I believe it was.
He was a Thai nationality.
Yeah. So we have the 55 that are still behind enemy lines. And right now, the key is getting them home. And so many people, unfortunately, aren't focusing on this anymore with the rise in anti-Semitism here in the U.S., with things going on elsewhere, with what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. It seems like this has taken a back burner. But for your family, it's in the news every single day.
Yeah, we wake up in the morning and we ask ourselves, okay, what do we do now to be most effective? And it's a very difficult question, Ali, because you never know what's going to make a difference. Is it talking to the U.S. administration? Is it talking to the Israeli government? Is it talking, getting on a plane to Doha? Like, it's so unknown. And after 16 hours of working, you ask yourself a simple question. Have I moved the release of my son an inch more before I started the day? And you don't have a good answer for that. And that's, I think, one of the most difficult challenges we've been having for over 600 days. What is the most effective way to get our kid out?
What conversations have you had with American authorities, with the federal government? I mean, it's been over 600 days. Your son's still being held over there. Is there any movement? Is there any updates whatsoever from them? Do they keep you updated on a regular basis?
So as we speak, I'm here in Washington, D.C., actually, just coming out of meetings with the administration, was in the White House, and also meeting key officials from the Senate, and, just nudging them and just keeping this top of mind for them, and reminding them that these 2 U.S. citizens are still left behind. And this administration has done a fabulous job when it comes to releasing hostages. From the inauguration till today, 46 U.S. citizens were released from captivity. That's a fabulous number compared to the previous administration. And I know the president himself, he's focused on it. He knows about it. And we just need to keep them focused and say, we don't care who's to blame. Like, I don't care if it's more the Israeli side, the Hamas side. My kid is a U.S. citizen. I pay taxes in the United States, just like anybody else listening now. And this United States government has an obligation to bring my kid back. And that's what I'm waiting for. That's what I keep on coming out to Washington, making sure that they're focused and they know that if plan A is not going as planned, then there should be a plan B. And that's what I keep on asking them. How are we moving forward? And if we're stuck, where is the bottlenecks? And how do we get, to the end point, which is getting all the hostages out, including my son?
We're talking with Ruby Chen. He's an American. He's the father of American-Israeli soldier Itai Khan, who was killed on the October 7th attacks by Hamas, but the terrorists are still holding his body. So right now, tell me about your son, because he's been a picture on the wall of my synagogue for close to 2 years now. We've been saying prayers for him. I know many others have been saying prayers for Itai Khan. So what can you tell us about your son? Give us the personality. Give us who he is so that we could put that with the face that we see in the news all the time.
I would be glad to do so, Ali, but I do just want to pause for a second on the statement you made. So we were notified by the IDF that Itai most likely did not survive, but we have no evidence. And to this date, Hamas, which is a very vicious terrorist organization, have not A, acknowledged that he is in their possession, and B, what his physical status is. So, there's that glimmer of hope that maybe we might have a different ending. And that is part of why we've been fighting so much to get to that point of at least knowing what his status is. And it's important to explain to the audience this is how we view it. About Itai himself, he is the middle child. So he has an elder and younger sibling. I don't know, Ali, yourself, if you're a middle child or the eldest, but the middle one, he's the more challenging one. He needs to find his path. He did a dozen different extracurricular activities, but mostly fell in love in being a Boy Scout, so being a counselor to younger kids. And he, loved basketball, avid NBA fan. I, as you could understand, am a New Yorker, which makes me a New York Knicks fan. For the love of God, I do not know how, but the kid became a Celtics fan. And, what we were missing, is watching in playoffs now, Knicks against the Celtics, just sitting on the couch and doing what any father and son would be doing. And it is Father's Day coming up. Hope you guys, have, taken care of your dads and, thought about them and bought them, a nice present for who they are. And Woody Ty was the same way. We would, spend time together and, needle one another. He was mostly, his mom's kid. And we would, occasionally get into, fights about things, as any father does with his kid. And he would say to me, Dad, why are we wasting energy? I'm gonna go to mom. Mom's gonna say yes anyway. So, it's a waste of time. Like, let's, get to where we need to get to. And he, at the age of 18, he has a U.S. citizenship as well as a German citizenship from his mom's side. So I'm emphasizing that just to say, at the age of 18, he could have done anything. Could have been any place. Could have gone to college. Could have gone to Europe. But he knew what it is to be Jewish. And he knew that both of my family are Holocaust survivors. And there was a time that there was no Jewish state. And it was his privilege to serve in the IDF. And he was protecting the border with a tank squad. So he was in the tanks division. And they fought and they protected and they did what they were supposed to do. And then some more. But the cavalry, so to speak, never showed up. And his tank was hit by a anti-tank missile. They were neutralized. And that was almost 610 days ago. And ever since, we're waiting to hear what happened to him.
I hope you hear good news, because Hamas has been playing these games the entire time about who's alive, who's dead, putting people through absolute hell on top of the hell of holding their children captive. In the last few minutes we have with Ruby Chen, he's an American, he's the father of American-Israeli captive Itai Chen, who is being held by Hamas in the horror tunnels of Gaza. If you could give my audience a message of something they can do. Prayers, I'm sure, are always appreciated. Should they be contacting the administration? Should they be advocating for it? Is there something they should do by going to protests, rallies for Israel? Is there something else they should be doing? What message would you give them?
Yeah, so first I'd like to thank the audience for being out there and supporting us. We saw what happened in Colorado last week. That's something that, cannot be accepted. We are here in Washington. We will be attending a vigil of Congress for the two workers of the Israeli embassy that were killed about a month ago. And the ask is simple, just give us 5 minutes a day where you call up your congressman, call up your senator, ask them a simple question. I just listened to this, New Yorker with a funny accent, and, his kid has been held hostage, and ask the congressman a simple question. What have you done today to release these 2 U.S. citizens from captivity? And end that dialogue with saying, I'm going to call you the next day or the next week, and I'll just keep on calling you until you guys get your act together and you find a way to get these hostages out. We have Mr. Steve Witkoff. God bless him. He's done a fabulous job, but he needs that push from the administration to keep on working, from the Congress and from the Senate, to make sure that that is his priority. He has a lot of things on his plate. We just need to find a way to get these hostages out. It's been way too long, and these 2 U.S. citizens cannot be left behind. 2, that's a doable number. It's not 10, it's not 20. 2 people getting out. You lean on Qatar, you find a way to get those 2 kids out. That's the ask that I have for the audience here that is with us and willing to support us.
And for those of you that think what Ruby is saying is pointless given the elected officials we have in Washington, I want to remind you that there are some that are on our side. We have Michael Baumgardner out in eastern Washington. We also have Adam Smith, who's the ranking member for the Democrats on the House Armed Services Committee. We have Kim Schreier, who is one of the Democrats who did not vote who did vote to condemn the terrorist attacks as opposed to the rest of the Democrats who did not. There are people who are on the side of freedom and right and getting the hostages back. Ruby Chen, we pray for the soon as possible release of your son, Itai. And I hope the next time we have you on the show, we get to share good news.
God bless you, Ali. God bless for what you're doing. God bless the audience, and just pray for us, and hopefully we have an ending soon.
Amen. Amen. Can only say it so many times, but amen as many times as we possibly can. Ruby Chen, thank you so much. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win two tickets to Pantera at the White River Amphitheater on August 22nd. We're also giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and so much more. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com. Download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Well, it looks like Katie Davenport is on the ground for the post-millennial down at the Federal Building. Looks like she's being joined by Brandy Cruz right now.
Careful how you say on the ground, considering she's being pursued by Antifa
You're right.
as we speak.
She is covering what is happening on the ground at the Federal Building. Looks like Brandy Cruz is joining her as well. Brandy writes, criminals outside the Federal Building in Seattle are now using zip ties and rope to bind Lime scooters together, making it harder for agents to remove their barricade next time. Now, Mike's going to make fun of me for this next comment. I got 2 bolt cutters at home. I literally have 2 bolt cutters at home. I know what most of you are thinking. Why does Ari Hoffman need bolt cutters? No, I was not a thief. It was that I used to have these locks for my rental equipment for the bounce house company, and my guys kept forgetting the keys or the combinations. Yes, I have 2 bolt cutters at home. If ICE needs to borrow my bolt cutters, I will bring them down myself to the Federal Building. Yeah, this is absolute craziness. The question is, at what point does it become a point where ICE has to move in or the Seattle police has to move in, and actually, will they? Now, the Seattle Times is out with their coverage of what's going on outside the Federal Building. We're going to read it so you can see the bias. If we didn't have independent journalists out on the street covering this, you'd have a very biased look of this. So let's recap, before we get into the Seattle Times, what has happened. A whole bunch of anti-ICE activists have showed up and barricaded the building. Right there, that is obstruction. Putting the Lime bikes, putting the Lime scooters in front of their access points, that is obstruction of justice right there. Everybody who did it can be charged right now for obstruction. That's an escalation. That's showing up. But according to the Seattle Times, no. It's the federal agents who are escalating everything, buying into this whole false narrative. So, here's how the Seattle Times paint this. About 50 demonstrators. 50 demonstrators. Demonstrators. Not Antifa, not far-left activists. If these guys were carrying Trump flags, it would be far-right MAGA extremists. But just demonstrators. Peaceful demonstrators who are trying to barricade federal agents from arresting illegal immigrant criminals. About 50 demonstrators and a dozen Department of Homeland Security officers played cat and mouse for more than 8 hours. Cat and mouse. Oh, tag, you're it. Tag, you're it. Tuesday, outside the Henry M. Jackson Federal Building in downtown Seattle, where protesters, right, protesters, not extremists, not radicals, not far-left extremists, just protesters, had gathered to support immigrants and show solidarity with protesters in Los Angeles. Show solidarity with rioters in Los Angeles. You see how biased this thing is just in the first paragraph? The building, which houses Seattle Immigration Court, went on lockdown 8 a.m., as the day's hearings got underway and a rally protesting deportations and U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement began outside. The lockdown was still in effect as of 2 p.m., though people with the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project were allowed in. Oh, you mean the ones who are getting our tax dollars to advocate for illegal immigrant criminals? SPD, KKK, ICE, they're all the same, the rally crowd chanted. The rally crowd. To someone banging a drumstick against a plastic bucket emblazoned with the words, "Abolish ICE." Oh, they're fighting for freedom. Some demonstrators lifted signs above their heads bearing messages like "Our neighbors are in cages" and "No to deportations." See, if this was the right, if this was a Donald Trump rally or protesters, what would they be calling them? Far-right MAGA extremists, and they're carrying hateful signs. After the initial rally, protesters piled e-scooters and e-bikes in front of the building's 4 driveways to prevent detained immigrants from being driven out of the building. Okay, they just said that. Now they're going to say this. The atmosphere remained calm until shortly before 11 a.m. when 5 DHS officers emerged from the building. Stop. Hard stop. You just had them piling e-bikes and e-scooters in front of the building to hinder their access. But all was calm. All was calm. Biased much, Seattle Times? When 5 DHS officers emerged from the building, the officers rounded the corner on 2nd Avenue and Madison Street and told protesters to stop blocking the driveways before picking up the scooters and bikes and moving them off the sidewalks. Shame, some protesters shouted at the officers. A group of demonstrators closely followed the officers as they walked to other driveways and dismantled other makeshift barricades, then re-entered the building through a side door. The cycle repeated itself several times throughout the day, with about 10 officers, some equipped with gas masks, helmet, and impact weapon, emerging shortly before 1 p.m. Question: why are you talking about the people in the crowd wearing gas masks, wearing helmets, and carrying impact weapons and shields? Because I can see it, and I'm in a studio, so Seattle Times doesn't want to tell you the truth. Seattle Times is biasing this, clearly showing favoritism towards the rioters. Seattle police temporarily blocked traffic on Spring Street and 2nd Avenue because of the protest, once again, protest. At 11:30 a.m., using a patrol car to block the road, the department reopened the road about 20 minutes later. Were they told to retreat? Sounds like that's what's going on. By 3 p.m., about 30 protesters remained stationed around the building, small groups gathering at each of the 4 driveways, which remained blocked by piled scooters and bikes. Some demonstrators waved and held up signs to cars traveling down 2nd Avenue bearing messages like "ICE destroys lives in this court." Around 4 p.m., the garage door closest to the corner of 2nd Avenue and Madison Street was opened. DHS officers and employees dragged the scooters and bikes inside. A DHS officer stood watch from an upper-story balcony, pointing an impact weapon, at the protesters inside the open garage door. Protesters yelled, "Let our neighbors go." This is going to go all night, by the way. I wouldn't be surprised. These activists are inspired by the fact that Democrat politicians across the West Coast, especially in California, keep blaming Trump. So they know they can get away with it because who's Bob Ferguson going to blame? Trump. Who's Nick Brown going to blame? Trump. Who's Bruce Harrell going to blame? Trump. Who are all of them going to blame? Despite the fact that they're allowing lawlessness on our streets, despite the fact that they're allowing illegal immigrants to take over our streets, the fact that they're allowing illegal immigrant criminals to operate freely in Washington, even though we told you the story today about the guy who crashed into officers trying to elude them, who had a long rap sheet, even though we talked about the Canadian who was caught at Seatac today, who is wanted for child rape charges. These are the people they are defending. They should not be here. You think this is going to encourage anybody to vote your way? You think this is going to encourage anybody to support you? No. There's a video of a mom in New York right now. The anti-ICE protesters are blocking her way. And she's saying, I just got to get my kids home from school. I just got to get my kids to where they need to go. I got to get my kids to their doctor's appointments. There's another mom in California who's screaming and yelling at these guys to get the hell out of the way. Because what's happening right now? These lunatics are stopping her, and she's got babies in the back. And they're shutting down freeways. This is the insanity we are seeing happen in real time. Democrats haven't learned the lessons of 2024. Over 80% of Americans want the illegal immigrant criminals deported. Democrats are on the wrong side. And once again, they're back in the rioters because that's who their base is. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 gift card, plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to your good news giveaway, got some good news headlines for you. So this morning when I walked in, I noticed there was a Navy ship out there, and I was kind of wondering what it was doing there. So it's the USS John Paul Jones. That is the one that is prominently featured in the movie Battleship, the movie that's so bad it's good.
We are going to die. We are going to die. You're going to die. I'm going to die. We're all going to die. Just not today.
That's right. The ship from the movie Battleship. Though actually, I believe they were on the battleship itself on that one. Yes, that's when they were on the battleship, the Missouri, which is docked in Pearl Harbor, which was able to be started up after decades of not being used to go fight the aliens?
Yeah, just turn the key.
Yeah.
Also, the titular battleship is, I think, what we were looking for from me here.
Exactly.
Give myself a rim shot.
Exactly right. So the USS John Paul Jones, DDG-53, is currently in Seattle, not because it's reassigned here as a permanent base, but because it's undergoing a docking selected restricted availability, otherwise known as a DSRA, at Vigor's Harbor Island Shipyard. This maintenance period began around November 2022, is expected to last nearly a year to perform critical work like hull preservation, propulsion overhaul, sonar upgrades, structural repairs, and so much more. So this is the fourth Navy ship currently in for repair there, the first time since 2011 that 4 Navy vessels are undergoing maintenance simultaneously. So that means it might actually be here for Fleet Week. Actually, in August of 2022, the John Paul Jones was here for Fleet Week. You know, I haven't actually ever been to Fleet Week. Maybe this year I could get there a little bit early, go check out some of the ships. That would be a lot of fun. I always do all the seafair stuff, but I don't ever get down to Fleet Week. That could be a lot of fun. And though technically homeported at Naval Station Everett, the ship is often seen near Seattle when visiting or undergoing maintenance. This all comes from uscarriers.net and navy.mil. So we do appreciate them for giving us all the information on why that ship was out there in the first place. I'm saying, are they that worried about Antifa tonight? Is that what they're concerned about going on? Yeah, I knew we would be okay. Yeah, the movie Battleship. Love that stupid movie. Completely unbelievable. I think it would have been more fun to actually, be set in World War II. The scene where they're actually playing Battleship, though, with the aliens. Yes, why there are aliens. I'm convinced the only reason they have aliens is so that the missiles they fire look like the pegs in the game. I know some of you, the light bulb just went on and you went, oh, now I get why those peg things were sinking into the battleships and sinking them. Ironically, the only ship that doesn't get sunk is the battleship that whole time. So I do like that they say you're never going to sink this battleship. Yeah, that kind of cracked me up. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980, features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout delivery order, and more. We are also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, plus a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life. For 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots. Have future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit MadronaFinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we are giving away 2 tickets to Pantera at the White River Amphitheater on August 22nd. The countdown is on. Get $30 concert tickets to select shows at the White River Amphitheater, Chateau Ste. Michelle, and the Gorge, which are on sale right now. Make it a summer of live music with your $30 ticket to summer. KVI has your chance to win tickets to Pantera at the White River Amphitheater. You can get your tickets to Pantera and your tickets for the summer at livenation.com/ticket to summer. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement, and 2 tickets to Pantera at the White River Amphitheater on August 22nd. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Looking for caller number 10. Also, here's something else. I'm looking at the weather report from Cliff Mass, our trusted weatherman, and he says that we're expecting this warm weather to last for a little while longer. But it looks like that a gloomy June might be on the way soon. So what I recommend, my friends, don't go down to the federal courthouse or the federal building and see what's going on with Antifa. Leave that to those of us who stream these things for your entertainment. And look at it on your phone while you are hanging out on the water or out for dinner somewhere enjoying the sunshine. Don't forget, you can follow me at Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, the Hofffather over on Twitter. That's going to do it for us today. Fear not, my friends. We'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.